iOS and iPadOS 18 is here. Now, normally I would start off my big iPadOS walkthrough talking about a multitasking change or a killer new iPad feature, but there really isn't any of that this year. This is a much lighter year. It's focused a lot on low-hanging fruit and a lot of quality of life improvements. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Let's get into it. The home screen on the iPhone and iPad got some new customization options. App icons and widgets can now be placed anywhere on the home screen. No more strict left to right grid, though there is still a grid placement. While widgets could be placed anywhere in iPadOS 17, the fact apps can be moved anywhere now is welcome. On the iPhone, all of this is new. There's a new home screen customization menu. Long press on the home screen and jump into jiggle mode. Now there is an edit button in the top left corner. In this menu, there is an option for customize. My favorite change to the home screen this year is the new dark mode theme. While third-party apps for a while now have given you the option to be able to pick which kind of app icon you want, now app icons will automatically shift when going into this mode to be a bit darker, including Apple's app icons, which up until this point have not had a dark mode version. Some of the new Apple dark mode icons are really good, like Maps, Photos, and Music. I really like these. For third-party app developers, they can make their own dark mode icons. In some cases where the app icon background is white, or maybe the symbol in the center is white and the background is a color, the system will do a smart invert, so you will get a dark mode icon. In cases where developers don't make a new dark mode icon, and iOS and iPadOS isn't sure how to invert the app icon, the system will then dim the icon to make it a little darker. If you don't like the dark mode home screen but do like dark mode in apps, the two controls are separate, so you can have the look you want. There's an automatic mode for the home screen that will just match the system dark or light mode option. If you want to get more colorful with your home screen, you can now add a tint to this. I'm not a big fan of this feature. It just shifts the hue of everything on your screen. When enabling it, the system tries to be smart and picks a color to match your wallpaper. It does an okay job with this. It would have been nice if this changed the background layer of the app icons, then maybe shifted the foreground element to be a little lighter or darker, but instead, it's just spray painting your home screen with a specific color. In the customization menu for the home screen, there is now an option for small and large app icons. While the small option is the standard that we've had for basically ever, the big option makes the app icons, bigger, but it takes away the text labels. While the big app icons definitely took some getting used to, I will say they grew on me. Though this does remove the text labels from the app library, which I personally think is a step too far. And on the iPhone, it leaves this empty space between the dock and the last row. It's practically enough space for another row of apps. That all being said, I'll take those trade-offs to get rid of the text labels, especially on the iPad where the widgets never had that, but the apps did. In the past, if you wanted to swap out a widget for a different size of the same widget, you had to go in and delete it and then re-add it to your home screen with the different size. Now you can long press on the widget and select a different size, including swapping out the widget for the app icon instead. The widget that you're doing this with must support the different size classes of widgets in order for you to jump between them. For example, if you have a widget that just supports the XL size, it won't give you any options to swap it out with a smaller widget. But you will still be able to jump back down to the app icon even if there are no other widget sizes supported. The reverse also works. If you have an app icon on the screen, long press on it, and you can select the widget size from this. With iOS and iPadOS 18, you can now have an app require Face ID to open it. Long press on the app and select Require Face ID. I can see this being really important for note-taking, journaling, and financial apps, especially if you're like me and you set your device to never auto-lock. When long pressing on and selecting Require Face ID, there will be an option in here to hide the app as well. This moves that app into a special folder in the app library called Hidden. This requires authentication to open it. When moving apps here, it will hide all future notifications. They won't just pop up on the screen. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN service that protects you and your data. I've told this story before, but I think it's a great example. I worked in IT for 9 years, and one day we set up this fake coffee shop network, open Wi-Fi, a bunch of connected devices, and we wanted to see if we were actually able to snoop on other devices. And what we were able to get was kind of scary. With Surfshark, your data is completely encrypted from the device to its destination, so you would never have to worry about anything like that. Now, this isn't well, I have nothing to hide, so I have nothing to lose kind of thing. There is a lot of scary things people can do with data, and I wouldn't want to just give that up. One thing I really appreciate about Surfshark is they don't keep logs. Keeping logs defeats the purpose of using a VPN. With Surfshark, you're able to change your location. So I'm here in America, and maybe I wanted to check out and see what's on UK Netflix, or maybe I'm traveling abroad and I want to finish a show back in the US. I can do that with Surfshark. I really like Surfshark. In fact, it's a service I pay for myself. I'm going to put some links in the description below to where you can go check it out. Use code LOLLY at checkout to get an extra 4 months for free. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. The iPhone's lock screen got a few updates as well. You can now swap out the controls on the bottom of the screen. If you use more than one lock screen, you can customize each page to whatever you want it to be. But you are still limited to 2 controls per page. Because I use a third-party camera app, I use this to swap out the lock screen's first-party camera app controls. I removed that camera from the lock screen and went in and added Obscura. I found setting up the Apple TV remote controls here for my home personal focus to be really handy. Other first-party options include running shortcuts, opening the magnifier, jumping right into a specific app, toggling recognized music, scanning a QR code, a ton of accessibility features like voice control, eye tracking, Apple Watch mirroring, voiceover, and a lot more. Third-party controls can be updated to work with this page as well. A few betas that I've been using are drafts. This gives you the ability to create a new note and just jump right into it in drafts. With things, you can quickly capture a new task, Glucomate for logging your blood glucose, Play for an item from Music Box, Launcher, well, does what Launcher does best, a whole bunch of different stuff, including toggling custom live activities. For my work lock screen, I use 2 shortcut controls. One is my task cut shortcut, and the other is my capture cut shortcut. There is a bug with the shortcuts control where you can't assign a shortcut right away. Add the shortcut control, exit the editor, then go back into the editor, tap on the shortcut control, and then assign a shortcut. For my filming focus, I've been using shortcuts. The right control is using the Open App shortcut control, and this launches the video capture app Kino. I've been using this to film my new short series. The other control runs my shortcut that plays music to my HomePods in my studio. For iPhones that have the action button, any of these controls can be added to it, including both first and third-party options. So if you want to set up something really specific, like launching things and adding a task quickly, this could be a good way to do that. My favorite feature in all of iOS and iPadOS 18, though, is the new customizable Control Center. Not only have third-party controls come to Control Center finally, but the layout of this is much more flexible. When in Control Center, hit the plus button in the top left to get into the new edit mode. There is a new option that says Add to Control Center. In here, you have a lot of the same controls you could add to the lock screen, plus a few more. You'll see familiar options like flashlight, music recognition, stage manager toggle, low power mode, and more. But like I mentioned, third-party controls are in here as well. So I've added toggles for scenes from dark mode, add tasks to things, create a new note in drafts. All sorts of different stuff can be added here. When adding controls, you can resize them by grabbing the handle. They come in a small, medium, large, and an extra large size. You can also add multiple pages as well. When in the edit mode, you will be given a blank page to add controls. You can set up these pages by a theme or just let the chaos hammer reign and do as you wish. In the edit mode, you can also move controls around, including moving them to different pages. My first page is General Controls. A lot of stuff that you would see in iOS and iPadOS 17 in Control Center is here. Volume and brightness controls, Stage Manager toggle, TV remote, calculator, QR code, screen mirroring, background sounds, which Apple has added 2 new sounds now. There is now a fire and a night option if you use the background sounds option. My second page is full of shortcuts I use often. This includes shortcuts like Task Cut and Capture Cut, which take advantage of the Get On Screen action, Snippet Cut, which is my snippet manager for all the text I use often, and more. I found having a shortcuts page to be really nice. The next page is a bunch of smart home devices I like to access often, including scenes I've set up for both my office and studio. I broke this out from the main page to give me more flexibility. I can pin the device and scene here so I'm not relying on the system to guess correctly. The next page is a full screen playback page. I don't use it that often though. I still have the smaller now playing control on the first page. And if you long press on the smaller control, you will get the larger controls that you could see on a dedicated page. Here you can play pause, skip songs, and adjust playback destination. The last page is a full screen connectivity controls widget. This is where I can toggle stuff like airplane mode, cellular, Bluetooth connections, Wi-Fi, AirDrop, and a few others. But this is another page that isn't really necessary. Long pressing on the smaller connectivity widget gives you these same controls. In fact, a lot of the controls have a long press option now to show you more options. This just goes to show how good the new Control Center is at being compact on the iPhone and giving you lots of options, but then being able to expand. But on the iPad, there is still a lot of wasted space when it comes to Control Center. I'm disappointed Apple didn't take this chance to expand Control Center on the iPad, or even pair it with something like Notification Center. If you have multiple pages in Control Center, you can jump through them quickly by just scrubbing your finger through the various pages. At the top right of Control Center, there is now a power button. This brings up the slide to power off screen for both the iPad and the iPhone. It would have been nice if this was just a proper shutdown button and didn't bring up the slide menu, but at least there's a software toggle for power now. Third-party app controls being added to Control Center are going to be the big feature for anyone that uses stuff outside of the Apple circle of apps. Spotlight got a new feature ahead of Apple Intelligence that's coming in 18.1. Semantic search allows developers to hook into Spotlight so you can search for content in an app. For example, I'm able to search the name of a game, movie, TV show, or even a book in SQL. This is an app I use for media tracking. I can tap right on the results and it'll jump into it in the app. But now developers can build their own indexes of information in their app, hand that over to Spotlight, making it a much more capable search tool. It also works in apps like Play and Music Box. Semantic search supports fuzzy searching, meaning you don't have to have the exact name or title to pull something up. If you're close, it still finds it. This is a feature I'm going to be keeping an eye out for as third-party apps are updated. Semantic search is making Spotlight even more useful as a place to start search for local content, web queries, or toggling system features. I'm kind of a bit surprised Apple isn't rolling Type to Siri into Spotlight as well, but we're going to save that for the Apple Intelligence video, which will be coming later on when 18.1 ships. The calculator was added to the iPad, but also got a big overhaul on the iPhone. There is a standard calculator mode. It doesn't look great full screen on the iPad, but Stage Manager does help with that. But now there's an option in the bottom left corner of the app that changes the mode of the calculator. The second option in here is a scientific calculator. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what most of this stuff is. But if you need a scientific calculator, it's now built right into the system. Another option in here is turning into convert mode. You can use this to convert measurements, currency, data, energy, power, fuel, temperature, time, volume, weight, and more. A lot of this is built right into Spotlight, but it's great to have a place to work out a bigger issue. The last mode is Math Notes, and this is a really interesting feature. This gives you a notes-like view on both the iPhone and the iPad to work out problems. You naturally write out your equation. Then when you write the equal sign, it will solve the problem for you. On the iPad, you can use the Apple Pencil to write out these equations, including complex math problems. Then, when you draw the equal sign, it gives you the solution. With math notes, you can set variables, meaning you can write a letter or a word and then an equal sign and an integer. This will assign that integer to that word or letter. Then you can use it in multiple equations. If what that variable equals ever changes, you can just update that integer and it will affect all the equations that it is a part of. At any point, if you make a mistake in your equation, you can update it and the solution will update in real time as well. This is a great way to elevate back of the napkin math to something a bit more professional and accurate. If you tap on the equal sign of a variable, you can use it to create a graph right inside Math Notes. Math Notes also supports doing all the unit conversions that are built into the calculator as well. Stuff like measurements, temperature, volume, and weight. Personally, I like using this for more complex problems like budgeting. Unlike a calculator, I can see every part laid out, add labels to my numbers, and update it if anything changes. My only feature request for Math Notes is the ability to set global variables that would sync between different math notes. Now, Math Notes isn't just a part of the calculator as well, it's a part of the whole system. When writing out a math problem, you will see a solution pop up in the quick type bar. This also works if you're doing unit conversions as well. These will show up in any app that the QuickType bar is available in. I found this to be particularly handy in messages. Math Notes is also fully a part of the Notes app as well. In fact, when you write a math note in the Calculator app, that document actually gets stored in Notes in a smart folder. Everything that you can do in the calculator version of Math Notes, you can do in the Apple's Notes app. Math Notes even works in the Quick Note window as well. I love seeing these features work across different apps and them not being siloed away. When writing in Notes, you can now collapse sections that are using the heading option. Just tap the arrow next to a heading to collapse it. Tap it again to reveal it. This is great for staying focused on what you're writing. I do this a lot in Obsidian. When I'm done writing a section, I'll just collapse it. There is also a new highlight tool in Notes. Select your text and go into the formatting options. There are several colors to pick from here. This will highlight your selected text. If the tool is already on the color you want, you can just tap on the highlight button. Notes now supports recording audio. This is found in the attachment menu in Notes. When recording audio, the whole UI is taken up, but on the iPad, you can use multi-window for both record audio and typing notes. On the record screen, there is a transcript button you can select. This replaces the waveform view with a live transcript of your audio. In my testing, I noticed it could lag a little bit behind, but not by much. Once done recording, the audio will be embedded in whatever note you had open. You can play it back or read the transcript. The big new feature in Notes this year is Smart Script. This is for all the people that take handwritten notes on their iPad. This uses an on-device machine learning model to learn how you write. As you write with your Apple Pencil, it will use that knowledge to clean up your handwriting. But what is impressive is it's not just replacing your handwritten text with a font. It's still handwritten text, just adjusted to be more legible. My handwriting is atrocious, and it's a big reason why I type everything. I've been using SmartScript throughout the summer to journal, write lists, and brainstorm some ideas. With the final beta, SmartScript has gotten really good. One of the main reasons handwriting notes never really appealed to me was once something was written, you couldn't go back and add more. With SmartScript, you can actually pull apart your text and add another line or even more. It definitely works best if you're doing a whole line break and not trying to adjust something that's in the center of a line. SmartScript, unfortunately, is just limited to Apple Notes. It's kind of strange that it didn't at least make the jump over to Freeform. Overall, SmartScript is the big new feature for iPad users this year. It makes me wish I took more handwritten notes, but for the kind of work I do, typed text is just more convenient. If you do take a lot of handwritten notes in a class or meetings or whatever, this is going to be a huge feature for you. Personally, I would look at using Apple Notes over something like GoodNotes or Notability now. PencilKit is the built-in toolset for Apple Pencil throughout iPadOS. This year, developers got the ability to create custom tools for their apps. Now, I haven't seen a ton of examples during the beta period using this, but one app I have seen is called Elite Hoops. It's an app for basketball coaches. The developer added several custom directions in PencilKit so you can draw out plays. While I don't know the first thing about basketball, I think this is a really clever use case. Players can just see what they're supposed to do via symbols, and all of these are built right into PencilKit. I hope this is a feature we see adopted more throughout different apps. Freeform got some really killer updates. First up, you can now create scenes in Freeform. This allows you to break up your Freeform board into different sections so that you can present your board or even just jump around quickly. The way this works is whatever is on the screen will be a scene. You can zoom in and out as much as needed. Once you get the board positioned just right, you can hit the new scene button to create a scene. You can do this as much as you want. When presenting, you can use the arrow keys to jump between scenes. Under the scene controls, you can export a specific scene as a PDF or even print out the scenes. This is a great way from having to recreate your work in Keynote. You can just present right from Freeform. Freeform also got some handwriting recognition tools, very similar to the Notes app. You can select handwritten text and either copy it or straighten it out. You can search for handwritten text in a board. You can translate text from one language to another. Freeform also recognizes handwritten URLs and phone numbers, so you can just tap on them to either open up the URL or call that phone number. When diagramming, there is a new option to create connectors. Make sure this feature is turned on in the bottom right corner. Then use the line tool to connect objects together. Speaking of objects, they now snap to a grid when moving them around. Super handy for laying things out nicely and making sure everything lines up. The Reminders team continues to kill it every single year, bringing useful new features to the app. A big finally is you can now view subtasks in a smart list. This was such a headache for using reminders in the past. It still takes way too many clicks to add a subtask. Another paper cut of reminders got fixed. There is now a recently deleted folder for tasks, so if you make a mistake, you can go back into this folder and restore the task. But the big new feature in Reminders is that tasks now show up in the built-in calendar app. So whatever your task has a due date for, it will show up on that day for your calendar. Tasks can even be marked as completed right from calendars, and that syncs back to the Reminders app. On the iPhone, if you zoom all the way out in Calendar in the month view, you will now see colored dots on the days you have calendar appointments. Files got a few finalies checked off the list this year. When in the iCloud section, you can now long press or right click on a file and select Keep Downloaded. This will keep that file locally on your device and won't get offloaded. Even if it's not being used or you're low on space, it stays local until you uncheck Keep Downloaded. This also works for folders as well. You can now format external drives right from files. You can long press or right click on it and then select Erase. There are three options: APFS, exFAT, and regular FAT. If you're not sure what to pick, it's pretty simple. If you use all Apple devices, go APFS. If you use a mix of platforms like Windows and the iPad, pick exFAT. A word of warning, if you are going to format one of your drives, it is going to erase everything that is on that drive, so make sure that content is either backed up or it's stuff you don't need. When erasing a drive, there's an option to encrypt it when formatting. The drive will require a password every time you go to use it. Really important if you're storing sensitive information. Now, one of the very few exclusive iPad features this year is the new tab bar redesign you will see in both first and third-party apps. This is meant to replace the button controls at the bottom of apps that the iPad kind of inherited via the iPhone. The iPad does have a lot more screen real estate and does need something like this. When apps are in full screen or in a large stage manager window, you're still going to see the sidebar, but as they start to scale down, you will see this tab bar. You can edit what is in this tab bar by tapping the sidebar icon and then tapping Edit. Here you can add anything from the sidebar to the tab bar. You can also remove some items from the tab bar, but not all. In apps like TV, you're stuck with the MLS tab in the tab bar. Developers, including Apple, can choose to always force something in the tab bar. In some cases, I see this making sense, but nothing in the world will ever get me to care about soccer. So forcing me to have that MLS tab there is dumb, especially because MLS is a separate subscription on top of Apple TV Plus that I don't pay for. So it's a constant promo in my face. One of the core tenets of iOS and iPadOS 18 is customization. But when Apple decides to put something like MLS in the tab bar and not let users remove it, that's really undermining all of the customization features because they're saying this promotion is more important than letting users decide what they want to do with their devices. Safari's reader mode got overhauled with new controls. When jumping into the reader mode, tap the button again. Here you're going to have options to search the page for specific text, increase or decrease the font, change the font, swap out the background color, listen to the page, and of course hide reader mode. Under the menu button, there are page-specific controls. I'm really happy to see reader mode get some love. This is a feature I use a lot to stay focused on what I'm reading. The Shortcuts editor has had a lighter year in preparation for a big updates with App Intents, which will be a big part of Apple Intelligence that ships later this year. There are a few new actions I want to point out though. The first action I want to cover, add new reminders, got a huge overhaul. You can finally edit all of the data in a reminder, including priority, flag, add a URL, an image, assign it to a parent reminder, which basically makes this a subtask, a tag, and add a note. Before, this action was very limited, but now you can build out a lot with this, especially when you pair it with other actions like create list. The if action in Shortcuts got an update. This is big for anyone that does scripting in Shortcuts. You can now have multiple conditions in an if statement. This means you can really filter down what data gets passed where. For those that are using the journaling app, there are a bunch of new actions here on the iPhone. Unfortunately, the journal app still isn't on the iPad. Then lastly, there are a bunch of new meta shortcut actions, including turning a shortcut into a home screen icon and creating an iCloud link for a shortcut so you can share it. Passwords is the hot new app on the block. This has finally been moved out of settings and into its own app. In here, you can obviously store username and passwords, which will be done automatically in Safari if you choose that. But in passwords, there's also passkeys, sign in with Apple, Wi-Fi passwords, and 2FA codes. There's also a Windows version of this app launching as well. I am so happy that this is here. I have been using this to delete some old accounts and clean up some current accounts to make them more secure. Photos got a major redesign this year. The whole app acts as one page now. If you go up, you have your full photo library, and if you go down, you have access to all of your albums, collections, people, and pets. I actually really like the redesign of photos. But Apple had a feature they announced at WWDC called Carousel, and this got pulled during the beta, and I am really bummed about this. I really liked it. It basically allowed you to swipe left and right on your photo library and pin different collections up here. I'm really hoping it's something that does come back. Messages got some killer features this year. First off, RCS is now supported. From what I understand, this is actually something that has to be enabled on the carrier side as well, so everyone may not see this right away. When typing a message, you can hit the new text formatting button. In here, you can bold, italicize, underline, and strike through text. You can also pick from a handful of animations. These will only apply to the selected text. This does mean you can combine multiple effects in one message. When receiving a message, you can now use emoji for tap-back effects. Long press on the message and select the emoji icon. You can either scroll or search your way through it, then apply it to the message. One of my favorite new features in Messages I've been using is the ability to schedule a message for the future. It is in the iMessage app drawer. You can use this to schedule a message to send out in the future. I've done this a few times when I've had like an idea or a thought about something in the middle of the night. That way, even if the person was up, they didn't feel obligated to respond to me. For those that like to go hiking or get lost in the desert or whatever, you can now send messages via a satellite. So if you have no cell service whatsoever, you can use this. I'm actually quite excited about this because I lose cell service quite a lot in Yosemite. So if something were to happen, I can still get a hold of somebody for help. In the phone and FaceTime app, you can now do audio call recording. This will notify the person on the other end you are recording the call. A lot of state and regional laws do require this, but also it's just the right thing to do. When you do this, it will start transcribing the call as well. This is huge for people that do meetings. When done with the call, this will save the transcript to the Notes app. In FaceTime, you now have the option of either sharing your screen or seeing the other person's screen. Select the SharePlay icon, and you can either request to see their display or share yours. The person on the other end will get a prompt and will need to accept. Once connected, you can draw on their display or vice versa to point things out. But you can also request to take control of the other person's screen as well. This will send another confirmation prompt that the user will need to accept. But once accepted, you will be able to tap on their screen and control their device. I would have killed for something like this back in my IT days. It's going to help so much with troubleshooting devices. In iOS and iPadOS 18, now every device is an AirPlay receiver. Go into Settings, General, AirPlay, Continuity, and turn on AirPlay Receiver. You can set this up just so that your device with your Apple account can send media, or you can change it to everyone so that anyone can send media to your device. I wish there was a middle option though for anyone on a family iCloud group. The elephant missing from the room is Apple Intelligence. Now we always knew it wasn't coming in 18.0. Apple was upfront about that at WWDC. It's currently in beta right now in 18.1, and I'll make a full video about it when it ships. I have a lot of mixed feelings about AI, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about how Apple is doing intelligent stuff. Like some of the stuff like notification summaries, I love. Some of the other stuff like the image stuff, I've got some feelings on it. So I'm going to save that for a separate video just because that's not out yet. But for everything else, that is iOS and iPadOS 18. It's a much lighter release. Like I said, there's not some big killer iPad feature this year, which I'm pretty disappointed about considering we just got some amazing new hardware at the beginning of the year. I was hoping for something iPadOS related. SmartScript is really interesting, but if you don't do handwritten notes, it's not going to be for you. That all being said, there are a lot of really nice little touches and quality of life improvements, like being able to format external drives. That's going to be quite handy. Let me know what your favorite feature in iOS and iPadOS 18 is in the comments below. My thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.